Welcome back to Keeping BZ, the show where Zach and I show each other a video game and discuss things in a podcast-like format. And today we're doing a game that Zach has never heard of. I haven't even actually told him what the game is before we started recording right now. And I guess I'll introduce this game by sending Zach a picture in Discord of its cover.
What?
That is indeed a spider holding a gun and a knife, and the name of the game is Spider the Video Game. Spider the Video Game was made by Boss Game Studios, came out in '97, and it was their first game that started off their company. Whatever reason, this is what they decided to go with, and it did not sell super well. That was mainly because the publisher was not great at supplying the game and getting it out there distribution wise, and mainly because, just in general did not get great sales. They tried to push it for rentals at Blockbuster, but didn't really go anywhere. So Boss Game Studios just became like a developer that made racing games for the N64, and that was the rest of their careers until they became defunct in 2002. But like a lot of these lower, these kind of lesser known AA developers, usually their first project is the one they put the most ambition into. It's the one where they strike out and go, here's our game. And so they made Spider the Video Game. And I will now read the back of the game's box to just give you an idea of what the hell we're about to see and get into. The mind of a genius, the body of a spider. A mortally wounded scientist accidentally implants his consciousness in a nanotech marvel, a cybernetic spider. Now shrunk to the size of a bug, you must fight to survive an onslaught of hyper-deadly artificial life experiments from your own laboratory. Armed with microweapons, you explore the lab for clues about your enemies and the key to your escape. Move through a world turned upside down as you climb across the ceilings, floors, and walls of over 30 bizarre 3D levels. This game also had a website, which you can still visit via the Wayback Machine, which had basically, it acts almost like a blog for the scientist that turns into the spider leading up to the events, where he's reporting each of his diary entries of how the experiments are going with his nanotechnology. For example, I'll just read one here. October 27th, in the far distant future of 2017. Arachnoid Research Day 522. Day 30 since port implanted in cyber arachnid subject. All microconnections are responding. Dare I believe that the implant is a success at last. And it goes down the list, kind of each thing of his experiments leading up to when the events of the game actually occur. So now we're going to start the game.
The nostalgic PS1 sound.
Yeah, I have a lot of nostalgia for this sound as well.
I would say the PS1 and PS2 probably are my favorite libraries of games. Not even necessarily because they're the most consistent. I just think they're the most interesting.
Spider the Video Game has full CGI cutscenes, which were usually an impressive thing to have at the time. I mean, obviously the Square Enix games were known for them, but usually the smaller budgeted games didn't really go full on with their CG sequences. Spider the Video Game, every single time you beat a world, has a long little computer generated sequence setting up more of the story.
Proceed with thought transfer. Verify ID. ID accepted. System ready. Executing thought control. Downloading. Cybernetic device operating under MindLink controller. Unable to disconnect my link. Please check connection. System overload imminent. System overload imminent. System overload.
So yeah, it actually has quite a deal of a setup and effort put into its opening. This is the type of game where this title would be slapped on like a meme game on Steam in the modern day, but this feels like a legit product that was meant to be like, hey, this is our first game of our studio, and we're gonna try to really do something with this. So what is Spider the video game? Well, it's a 2D platformer.
Oh, this is not what I was expecting.
2D platformer, obviously with wall climbing mechanics, and you can pick up additional like temporary weapons you can use against some of the enemies.
That opening, for some reason, reminds me of a terrible FMV game, Bad Mojo.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. Now, Spider the video game, it actually got pretty decent reviews at the time. Some were average, some really liked this game. And mostly just talking about that they thought the controls felt pretty good, and they just liked the overall design of everything. And I can say that this game is a hidden gem. Now, as I've gotten deeper into it, the difficulty of the levels have increased pretty dramatically, to a point where it's getting like old Nintendo hard in a way that I'm not sure I can fully subscribe to and finish. But I want to see more of this game, because apparently there's city street levels, there's full-on museum levels where you explore each of the different exhibits. There's some sewer levels, of course, but those are like near the end. But there's a lot of variety in the levels, and what I've played so far, each level has their own sort of interesting gimmicks. So yes, we're basically just the scientists trapped inside the body of our own cybernetic spider experiment as we're trying to track down those agents or whoever they are that took our body. This game is tough. You only get 2 hits, and after that, you get reset to the beginning of the stage. And some of these stages are not short. They are in fact very long and at times non-linear. The DNA strands we're collecting are just extra lives. I don't know what that collectible is.
I assume the number in the top left corner is the live count.
Yes, and on the top right is our hits, which I only had 1 there because I had taken a hit before. If you're able to jive with this game's difficulty, I do think it's quite well designed. I just feel like sometimes the jumps, because of the small size of the spider on screen, sometimes when I'm trying to make precise jumps, I find it very finicky because of how small he is. Oh, yep, see. That spider just snuck up on me. The spiders just explode. Oh, yep, great, yep. Ah!
Oh,
yeah, some of the hit detection is not great.
I'm also thinking of another game where you play as a spider and a scorpion. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a Wii game.
You're thinking of Deadly Creatures.
Yes, that's the one.
Which I've also wanted to play because that game seems like a neat idea. Alright, and we got a boom.
Oh, yeah.
So let's see what this does. It's a boomerang. I also love that the spiders explode whenever you hit them.
I mean, they are robot spiders, right?
I think they're... Yeah, I mean, as we saw in the opening scene, they're also part of your experiments. And yeah, we just reset to the beginning of the stage because we got hit twice. And I'm just like, couldn't you give me one more hit? And it doesn't look like the difficulty settings really affect that at all. I also quite like the music to this game. It's done by a Barry, I think his name's Barry Leach or Lech. And Lech was like a pretty major game composer back in like the Super Nintendo, NES, and then eventually the PlayStation era. And he became like the main sound designer for Boss Game Studios, as well as who composed all their games pretty much. There we go, another hit.
So you said this was mainly designed to be a blockbuster game?
Well, as they had trouble distributing the game, they did end up trying to resort to the rental the different rental stuff available to try to get more copies out there so people would actually play the damn thing. And according to a quote from the company that distributed the game when it was coming out, because of the unfortunate lack of resources that the distribution company had, they only were able to put out about 40% of the copies they actually had on stock.
Oh.
So people who wanted to buy it weren't even able to buy it, yeah, to that much of an extent. Got a super bomb. What's this do? Okay, yeah, just a screen clear. There we go. Yeah, I love all the different weapons. I like how you can have like up to 4 weapons that are attached to each of your legs. Or at least your main legs anyway.
That is a pretty cool concept.
And we finished a world, so we unlocked a new cutscene. And now we're in a factory, and yeah, this is where the difficulty jumps, and where I've been having issues trying to get deeper into it. So I don't even know if I'm going to be able to finish this level. I've been able to finish it once, but it's long, and it's tough. Oh yeah, there we go. But yeah, Spider is just another case of, hey, the PlayStation 1 had so many games. Like, people talk about the long-lasting variety of just the amount of games that came out during the PS2's lifetime, and even the games that came out after its lifetime had already ended. But the PlayStation 1, it was almost like the Wild West, just like how many different types of developers were just like, yeah, sure, the PlayStation has mainstream support now more than ever, and we don't have to go through all the usual legal stuff we would have to on like a Nintendo console with trying to get our game on there and go through their whole ratings board and, censorship and all that. So, everybody was putting out a game on the PlayStation, and this was just another one of those cases where it was a smaller developer that was like, we're gonna make our mark with Spider the video game.
Yeah, this is why, as a kid, I always preferred the PS1 over the N64. And it wasn't just because I had one, although that probably played a part. I just always thought the PS1 had a lot of... Oh, okay, you can... I was actually thinking about asking if you could do web swinging.
Yeah, sort of. And kind of like Spider-Man, the lower you go on your web, the more you can swing. Which does come into some puzzles later on in the level after this that I've gotten to, where you do have to sort of hang to get certain collectibles.
I always preferred the PS1 just because I felt like it had better variety. The N64, to me, felt more like, this is for people that are Nintendo people. Whereas the PS1 felt like it had just... I think Scott DeWaz put it best. Nintendo 64 is for people that love Nintendo, and PS1, it had like a whole slew of games, and you could find your own niche in its library. If you didn't like 50 games, don't worry, there's probably another 50 games you'll end up liking on it. Whereas if you don't like the 50 games on the N64, you probably don't want the N64.
Okay. Can I make it? Yeah, I don't know how to get that collectible. I've been trying to figure it out. I assumed I'd have to get up to that, but I don't know how to get up there. Maybe there's a way I don't know how to, like, you know, shoot a web upwards, but I haven't seen anything like that. Those hornets are a pain in the ass. You do need to take them out because they will block your way and also shoot their stingers at you. Okay. Oh, I actually beat the level on my first try. Good for me.
I'd give you a thumbs up, but you wouldn't be able to see it, because we're on Discord. Edit in a thumbs up.
Yeah, I will. But, I mean, I think that gives a pretty good showing of what this game is. This is Spider the video game. It's not really going to change much from this, besides I imagine that each of the levels are going to have their own gimmicks. Like, for example, this one is a conveyor belt level, which is the one I have not been able to beat yet, because I find it very difficult.
I am annoyed by the fact that you have to jump for those collectibles. Why couldn't they lower them slightly so you could just get them?
I don't know. Like, so that was one thing I had an issue with in the previous level, is that there was a lot of collectibles that were, like, around a wall. And when you're climbing around the wall and going on the ceiling of it, you can't actually reach them. You would need to either go down on your web line or jump and then jump back up again to get to them. I just thought it was a pain in the ass. Yeah, like, your spider hit move sucks. And I didn't really see any other, and I was trying to find any other collectible or any other weapon I could get to take out that hornet, because those hornets are assholes. Yep.
What?
Okay, there we go. I fell off my web line, because I was trying to get that collectible.
Okay.
We're gonna end game.
Oh, there's an actual game over sequence.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, because if the spider dies, that means that the agency or whoever kidnapped our body get to do what they will with it.
I can't take this off. Just cut it off.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so the main villain of this agency is like a big brain in a jar, so obviously he wants our brain. So they cut our brain out of our head for some sort of sinister plot that I assume we'd learn more about if we got deeper into the game. But Spider the video game is pretty cool. As a developer's first starting out project, it feels like there was a lot of passion put into this strange concept. And it felt like, hey, let's just do a 2D platformer, because that's a, you know, a simple project to do for a first starting out game, but we're going to really show off why ours is unique. And I think they pulled it off. It's a really interesting addition to the 2D and 2.5D specifically platformers on the PlayStation. I think I like the history behind it. I love the CG cinematics and how they're well done. I really like just the variety of the enemies, the different abilities that you have because you're a spider. Maybe I'll get through the rest of it one day, but the difficulty at times does turn me off of it, especially since you only have 2 hits. I would love to see where the rest of it is, and this is a game to me that does deserve a second helping, like some sort of like remaster that turns down the difficulty a bit and adds other features to the full game. The soundtrack, if any of you listening to the game as we played it enjoyed the sound of the music, if you go onto the Bandcamp of the composer, Barry Lech, he actually just this year, completely remastered the entire soundtrack, dug up the old recordings of it, and remastered the whole thing in high quality. So if you want, if you are out there being like, I need the soundtrack to Spider the video game, you can get it now in the best quality possible.
Is that how you heard of this?
No, I actually heard about Spider the video game, Zach, because when we were at that convention where there was that one video game booth we always visit, I was digging through the PS1 games and I found Spider the video game in that collection of PS1 games, and I was like, what the hell is this? And I showed it to your brother, and he was like, what? And I read off the back of the box to him, and we were like, maybe we should get this. And then the price was like $35. And I was like, maybe not. So I went back home, I played it on emulator, and I was like, huh, this is actually pretty cool, and I'm happy I gave this one a shot. So yeah, just wanted to do this episode to show off a weird PS1 game, and I hope you guys enjoyed.